what if there is an emergency situation and the currency in use crashes or the money supply breaks down? Let's talk about emergency money. Hello my friends and welcome to my channel. This is Austrian Stacker. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe to my channel or at least consider it. Thank you very much. So there is a topic I wanted to talk about for a long time now, which is emergency money. There are different terms in use for it. There is military money, military currency. There is emergency circulating notes. There is even siege money. There are a lot of different terms in use for what actually is emergency money. So what is emergency money? And it's quite an interesting topic. Let's get into it. Siege money is actually a form of emergency money that was issued in times of war or invasion, such as during a siege. So, to say it in simple words, when, for example, a city was under siege and it was not possible to supply coins or banknotes or whatever, then usually the city started to create their own siege money to keep the economy running, to make it possible to buy groceries, for example, or whatever, and to create a kind of emergency money to make it possible for the people to buy goods. And usually the city itself or the local community guaranteed for the value of this so-called siege money. The oldest known siege money goes back to the 16th century. It was quite common that siege money was used in one or another form. So, for example, during the 80 Years' War, it's documented that siege money was used. So they created their own coins not from precious metals, but made from cheaper materials. And also during the English Civil War in the 17th century, are all well-documented cases where siege money was used to keep the economy running and to create a currency that can be used during the time when it was not possible to supply coins or banknotes. The next kind of emergency money is emergency money issued by different countries during times of war, and it's also called military currency or military emergency money. In that case, what you can see here is from the Allied Military Authority, a 1 shilling banknote from Austria, 1944. So this was during the time Austria was occupied by the Allied forces after the Second World War. Thanks for liberating us from the Nazis, by the way. Thank you very much to all the allies. And they issued military money, military emergency money, because the German Third Reich was not existing anymore. So there was no supply of money anymore. And Austria did not invent their own currency at that time. So this is why the Allied forces issued an emergency currency called like our old currency, the shilling, to have a kind of emergency money that can be used to buy food and necessary things you need for life. And this was in use for some years and issued by the Allied forces. So it's a quite common thing that countries occupying, that forces occupying countries like the British Empire in parts of the world, or France in occupied territories, that they issue a military emergency currency to keep the economy running and to make it possible to buy goods in shops and so on. Especially between the First and the Second World War, during the time of hyperinflation, emergency currencies were quite common. I have here an example from Germany. So actually the city of Berlin guarantees for the value of this note, which is 1 million mark. And it says that the bearer of this 1 million mark note can exchange it for any other legal tender. So this kind of notes were issued when the supply with money broke down, or also during time of hyperinflation, when you had to react very quickly because of the inflation and of the devaluation of the money, you had to react very quickly to keep to keep it possible to make business and to keep the economy running. And especially during these times, a lot of this kind of emergency currencies were created and used. And in that case, as I told you before, the Allied countries were guaranteeing for the value of this note. In that case, it was a local community, actually the city. And this is a quite common thing. I have other examples here for this kind of emergency money. In that case, again, issued during the time between the First and the Second World War, during the time of hyperinflation, when the supply with money broke down simply because of the quantity needed because of the hyperinflation. You have here one example from the city of Korneuburg, where they took over the guarantee for, in that case, 50 hellers. This kind of emergency currency was just valid for a limited time. As I told you before, that case it was end of December 1920, and this was just in use as kind of interim solution until the supply with the official currency started again. And for this certain period, in that case, the city of Korneuburg took over or guaranteed for the value of this emergency banknote. Especially for groceries and other important products, this kind of smaller, it's called Kassenschein, which means, the meaning of it is actually cash certificate, and they were also used in the time of hyperinflation and after the Second World War. So actually you could use it like regular money, and then when the supply with the official money, the official currency was possible again, and the official currency was available again, you could exchange this for the official currency in a certain time period. In that case, it was between March 1920 and December 1920. Then you could exchange it for, let's say, real fiat money. And usually the local communities or the local city governments or whatever, they took over the guarantee for these cash certificates and the emergency money. So this is what I wanted to talk about today, because I think it's a very interesting topic. As said, this already started in the medieval ages with the so-called siege money. So when it was not possible to supply coins or banknotes to a city under siege, then usually emergency money was used. It started very early, and then you have different forms of it, especially during the First and Second World War, during the time of hyperinflation. A lot of different emergency currencies were created and were in use. Also this kind of cash certificates. and then especially after the Second World War and in the occupied territories, usually kind of military currency was in use. In that case, it was the Allied military authority that issued this kind of emergency currency. And this is what I wanted to talk about today. I think it's a very interesting topic, so I'm looking forward to reading your comments. And I wish you a great day ahead. Stay safe and healthy, and see you next time. Servus.